It may be the dog days of summer, but politicians from the Battery to Buffalo are trying to convince voters you can teach an old dog new tricks. And my producer is probably going to send me to the doghouse for this. The Point starts right now. Trump, Hochul, Mamdani, they don't know the meaning of the term summer doldrums. To help sort out the busy world of politics, I'm joined by J.C. Polanco and O'Brien Murray. So let's start with the fact that the past week, the mayor of the city of New York decided to once again delve into foreign policy and talk about his ongoing quest to arrest Bibi Netanyahu. Now, the thing about it, I ask you, is this. He knew when he made the campaign promise all those months ago that he couldn't arrest Netanyahu, but he has continued to raise the issue about the possibility of arresting Netanyahu until this past week when he finally admitted 7 months into his term, oh my God, I can't do it. So what's with that, and why is he doing this?
He's the attorney. I just play one on TV. But even I could tell he can't do that. If a mayor in another city had done it, and this is the reason he's doing it now, it's a DSA talking point. It's a campaign point. It's a talking point. There are things he has to give the DSA that you can't do, but just talk about them and give them a platform to discuss their ideas, and then they're not gone.
Isn't there certain dishonesty here?
Well,
the fact that you talk about something you know you can't do, and you talk about it in the campaign, you continue to talk about it in your first 7 months in office, when you know you cannot do it.
Well, but the thing is, Marcia, that when he talked about free buses with millions and millions and hundreds of millions of dollars in MTA deficit, when he talks about freezing the rent, when he knows there's a legal framework before you're even able to freeze any rent for anyone, he also knew that this was impossible. He also knows that giving free daycare to the whole city is impossible too. But these are things that sounded really good in a campaign because there are 30-second spots, and we still talk about him today. He didn't have the authority to do it then. He knew it then. He knows it now. He knew before he went on TV. He knew before the video that he didn't have the right. But you know what's interesting, Obi? That video,
so much is.
So that video that he did out of City Hall had almost like 100 million views. It was brilliant marketing, but he knew it was going nowhere.
It's the DSA talking point. He'll run from now until the fall. That's all he's going to do on that. What he's doing is he's giving the DSA certain things he can. Those he can't, he gives it lip service. And now it's all coming back to haunt him. He is no longer going to be able to social media guy. He's got to deliver for the city. Taxes this week or another one.
If you go on social media and you see the comments by Palestinians and others who supported him in some part because of his stance on Netanyahu, you see that they're incredibly disappointed. So what are they going to be disillusioned by his inability to deliver on this promise? And when I asked him what should they do, he said they should protest when Netanyahu comes. Is that something the mayor of the city of New York should be doing?
I don't think so. No, I think that that's a loud message, and you'll see it. You'll cover it. The protests when Bibi Netanyahu's here by the same folks that were protesting against Jewish students walking into their classes at Columbia is going to be in full effect when Bibi Netanyahu's here, more than ever before, because that is...
Should the mayor say that they should protest?
No, he shouldn't do it, but I think that it gave him an out because he knew he wasn't able to...
None of this is a surprise. And I think what he's also doing, though, it's part of the national message. It's DSA national message. Let's push the Democratic Party to the left. And if they come even a little bit, if he goes 5 steps and they come 1, it's a win for him for taking the Democratic Party away from supporting Israel. And a whole question now what happens across this country in congressional races, Senate races, control of the Senate, governor's races, and state houses across this country.
Obi, you're right. The Democratic Party has a real issue with Jewish voters. It just does. I know that polls are out there saying that, you know, he's very popular among Jews, but that's just not the case. The Democratic Party fundamentally right now as we speak has a real issue with the Jewish community. Josh Shapiro in the latest poll is polling at 0% in New Hampshire. I mean, it's a real issue, and I think that he's giving red meat to the Democratic Party base.
But it really, at this point, is his talking point from day one from where he's going, and it's lip service, and it will be. But it is an identity problem for the Democratic Party now nationally, and he is pushing them further left. If you don't follow me, we're going to come after you. He did it in Colorado. He did it here in New York. He's going to continue.
And it works.
So I get that Israel and the support of Israel is going to be a key issue in November, and we'll get to that. But I'd like to ask you about whether all this talk also adds to the possibility of anti-Semitism, hate crimes, and whether, as one rabbi said during this past week, he thinks that this will have an effect on Jewish institutions, which are going to be targeted as well as Netanyahu.
Sure. One of the first things he did was undo the executive order by Eric Adams. And they had to go back to the city council and come up with an agreement for what they can do for protests. This is the disappointing thing for me is everything he's doing is not a surprise, but it is a disappointment.
Look,
because you thought he would get away from it.
When you take a look at the hate crime that's going up in New York City, it's anti-Semitism. It's not Islamophobia. It's not anti-Catholicism. It's totally anti-Semitism. And he knows it. And we know that every time he comes out and says anything about Israel, it gives his base even more ammunition to come out against
the Jewish voters in New York who don't feel safe.
The Jewish voters in New York actually support him more than we think. There's no question about that. I have conversations with New Yorkers I know that I've known for years, people I've just met, and they say you will be surprised what support he has within the community because other things he's doing. And they're not Zionist, much like we've talked about before. Different sects in Brooklyn and across this state and the world are not Zionist. And he is able to feed on that, get some of their support. The question is, is he going too far where he is then going to feed the fires of anti-Semitism, of hatred?
Well, do you think that's true?
Absolutely. He has to know as a leader, you have to back up the rhetoric and slow things down, get it under control, pick certain fights. By the way, I don't think it's disingenuous. I don't think it's anything more than politics. It's his politics that I disagree with, and I'm offended at it. And don't forget, he also is a mayor that didn't get 60, 70, 80% like previous mayors.
Right.
He is just on the outskirts of not having support.
You're right about what you say.
But his popularity has really increased since he took office.
And it's just going to continue increasing because he's crossed over from just a regular politician to a celebrity. Look, I can't tell you how many articles I've read just this last 2 weeks about his rings, his clothing, his favorite food, his favorite Taylor Swift songs. It's like he's no longer a politician being held into account for crime in our city, for the rise of anti-Semitism, for a lot of the issues that our community faces because of his power in the media. Is just incredible.
Will it be held to account for
I don't know,
issues?
Marcia. The days of Marcia Kramer journalism, as the journalism that we see in New York City, those days are over. Now
Excuse
it's all
me,
about
I'm still Marcia Kramer.
No. But the days where Marcia, you were leading the pack and people were investigative journalists and they were hard. Those days are over. Now it's just fluff pieces. It's nonstop
I don't do fluff pieces.
I said not you, Marcia. You're the dean of the media. But I'm telling you that when you take a look at the present-day journalism, it's all fluff. It's about his favorite Taylor Swift songs. Who cares? I want to know about the kids getting shot in our community. And I'm telling you that we're going to see more and more fluff pieces coming out. He's now an international sensation and no longer just a regular politician.
You can't beat somebody with nobody. And the challenge right now is he has no opposition. No one's willing to stick their neck out, come out and fight him, other than some on the further right and the Republicans in city council. The Democrats in New York City are afraid of being targeted in the city council, in the state senate, in the assembly. And the question is going to be, are they going to go too far and push things in Albany that they want to pass and hurt Governor Hochul in her race?
So let me switch topics for a little bit. On Thursday, the House voted to send a resolution to the president to end the war in Iran. That is an issue, I think, that everybody is saying, is there a way for us to get out of the war in Iran, number one? And number two, what effect is this going to have on the midterm elections?
Look, the war in Iran is incredibly unpopular. Gas prices are up. Affordability crisis is national. The people in the United States are unaware as to why we're still doing there because we thought everything was destroyed. And it's going to hurt the president in the midterm elections. We know that. One of the people that's going to benefit the most of that is Kathy Hochul because she's facing a Republican governor challenge for governor during a midterm election where the president is incredibly unpopular. And so is this war. Americans are feeling it at the pump.
When you drive across the state, not the city, you see billboards about what the cost of gas is. It impacts taxi drivers, but not the New Yorkers that don't have cars and don't buy gas every week, multiple times a week. The commuters, the people in suburbs, they're the ones that are going to feel it. It's going to impact congressional races. It's going to impact quite a bit going forward. How do you end it? I don't know. But the longer it goes on, the tougher it is when it hits people's pocketbook.
Is there a way for President Trump to get out of this war and save face in time for the midterm elections?
I think it's too late. I think it's too late at this point. We're talking the midterms are very soon, and we just lost another few members of our military. I just don't think how he gets out of this before the midterm.
There is time. The question is how. And I'm not the international expert. I can't sit here and say this is the answer of how he's going to do it. But there has to be a way to get it done sooner opposed to later. The later it goes, the worse it is.
So what do you say to the effect that when the House voted, there were 4 Republicans who voted with the Democrats on this resolution? What does that mean?
Because there are a lot of Republicans that also are unhappy with this war. The president hasn't been clear as to why we're still there. And these Republicans also understand that they're living in districts where they may have Democratic...
There are a number of Republicans against foreign aid across the board. And this was just another vote in that venture for them.
But a lot of them were in like swing districts, like Brian Fitzpatrick from Pennsylvania.
Yeah, these are swing districts, Marcia.
Because he's worried about the independents and some Democrats going the way of going against Israel and what they're about today in a post-October 7th and a pre-October 7th.
But here's the question. Is there a way that Republicans can save face and still keep their seats come November? We have about 20 seconds.
Look, the individual Republicans like Mike Lawler, like Fitzpatrick, these guys can do it on their own, but the president's going to be difficult for him to get out of this mess.
Okay, we're going to have to leave it right there for now. But up next, a Manhattan City Councilman who's bringing his animal advocacy to City Hall. Councilman is just Harvey Epstein's latest title. He's been a community activist for 30 years, an assemblyman who passed over 50 bills, and as a tenant member of the Rent Guidelines Board, he helped pass the first rent freeze in the board's 50-year history. So now we come to your present job, which is City Council, and you, among other things, have taken up the rights of animals. But I have to ask you, one of the most controversial things is the horse carriage bill. Where do you stand on that?
Yeah, I'm a co-sponsor of what's called now romance law after an unfortunate 18-year-old who passed away just a few weeks ago here on vacation from India, and he was on a horse carriage with his mother. And the horse got loose, and by protecting his mother, lost his own life. And so horse carriages have been a history in New York for over 150 years. We understand the history, but in today's times, having seen horses go through traffic, visiting them in their stables, it is time for this industry to end and to think about new industries, like other industries that have been in New York have ended. We support tourism, it's just not this way.
But, you know, a lot of people are, like the horses.
I love horses too, but I don't think horses need to be going from 34th Street on 10th Avenue up into Central Park through the traffic. We've seen horses get spooked. We've seen the horses really respond in a fight or flight way. We see that's really dangerous. And we see the Central Park Conservancy, where the horses are, asking that the horses don't continue.
I guess I wonder why we never decided to put the stables in Central Park so that the horses didn't have to go from the stables to the park itself. I mean, isn't that an idea that's worth exploring?
That was an idea that Mayor de Blasio had over 20 years ago, and that never came to fruition. Both the unions and the workers, and then at the end, the Central Park Conservancy felt like it wasn't a good match. And I have not heard from any of the parties involved that they want to revisit that. I
wonder if the workers now faced with the extinction of their jobs might have second thoughts and think that maybe putting the stables in Central Park would be a good idea.
Yeah. Well, I've talked to the union, TWU, I've talked to workers. If they have those ideas, I think the council's open to hearing anyone. We did have a hearing just last week on it, and we heard from hundreds and hundreds of people. I think something has to move forward, and I think based on the loss of life, we're going to act. But I think personally, we can transition them to new industries. There are a lot of ways you can have horses that aren't related to horse carriages. There are a lot of ways you can have horses that have vital parts of New York, but isn't part of this industry.
Another one of the things that you've championed is pet pantries.
Yeah.
You want to be able to provide food for people who have pets who may not be able to afford it. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so what we saw through, and we've heard from the ACC, is that unfortunately thousands of pets are being given up for adoption or brought back to the ACC because people can no longer afford to maintain their pets. And it's an affordability crisis, like we've heard from the mayor and other people around affordability. So we pushed to have a pet food pantry because I've gone to pet food pantries, I've seen hundreds of people wait online for free food for their pet, saying that they couldn't otherwise afford to keep their pet. We know that this is not just a crisis on affordability, but for families. We see studies across studies for seniors. And if the seniors has a pet or a dog or a cat, they live longer, they live healthier, they live better lives. So pets offer a lot to New Yorkers, and this is a way to keep people with their pets. It also saves us money because we're paying for the ACCs millions of dollars to hold the pets, get them adopted, and sometimes those pets have to be put down. This is a way to keep pets in their home with their loved ones.
Well, a related issue to that is the fact that a lot of the city's animal shelters are overcrowded. So what should we be doing about that? I mean, the thought of having to put pets down scares a lot of people.
Yeah, I think we should. Right now we're working on building a new ACC shelter in the Bronx and hopefully be up and running by the end of the year. That'll increase capacity. 2 is making sure people keep their pets. And 3rd is what we're doing around spay-neuter. We've allocated $750,000 to increase spay-neuter. We've seen for a lot of feral cats and dogs that families are not spaying and neutering their pets. This is a way to reduce and control the animal population.
Do you think that New York needs more pet-friendly businesses, cat cafes, places where people can legitimately bring their pets and feel comfortable that they can have them?
Yeah, I think it's actually a real hit by me. In my district, a place called Boris and Horton, they have a place where the people bring their dogs, people get coffee, and they sit, and the dogs engage with each other. It's widely successful. I think there's a lot of opportunity there to expand that across the city.
But how can the city be helpful in having that happen?
Yeah, we could work on legislation, and also we think about shelters. If we can think about how if someone has to go into a shelter, maybe the pet-friendly shelters, of making sure people know how to give their pets up when they become homeless. There's a lot of regulations in the city that can keep pets in their family and then make it a part of New York's fabric.
So one of the things that's been roiling the city this past week has been the mayor and his war, I guess you might say, on Bibi Netanyahu, saying he wanted to arrest him, but he can't arrest him, but maybe there should be protests when he comes here. Where do you come down on that? And do you think that the mayor should be delving in foreign policy when there's so many problems in the city?
I think the mayor should figure out what the mayor wants to do. I personally am someone who also believe that what's happening in Israel, what they've done to Gaza, and the Palestinians has been genocide, has been horrific. I think the Israeli government is deeply troubled, but there are also other countries across the globe. We've seen in Putin in Russia where people committing human rights violations. I think we should talk about those human rights violations like I have, but we also need to focus on the needs of New York, like the mayor has around the issue of potholes. We have a Legionnaires crisis going on. We need to focus on those things as well.
I guess the reason I asked the question is because a lot of people in the Jewish community are concerned about the rise of anti-Semitism and that they think that all this talk about Netanyahu is raising the specter of more anti-Semitic and hate crimes.
Yeah, I think the rise in anti-Semitism is deeply troubling. We've seen for a population, which is 10% of the population in New York, but the majority of hate crimes against Jewish New Yorkers is deeply troubling. We've focused on a lot of the issues. What we've learned from the data is a lot of the anti-Semitic acts are being done by young people. So we've talked to the chancellor about doing more education and outreach. I think there's a lot of misinformation and not a lot of cross-engagement. And I think we as a city need to do better. I know the mayor has got a new anti-Semitism czar. I know Felissa's really focusing on it. I think we need to put resources there in education. So that has to be solved. I don't know, and I don't believe that equates to increased anti-Semitism, talking about Netanyahu. It's like we're not saying talking about Russia and the genocidal acts that they're doing in Ukraine and other parts of the world, in anti-Russian hate.
All right, well, we'll have to leave it right there for now. But our conversations continue right after the show on our streaming channel, CBS News New York. Thank you for joining me. We're a city on the go, but has the city been responsive to the need to go? What do New Yorkers do when they just can't find a public bathroom? They're weighing in on your point. Does New York City have enough public bathrooms?
No.
I don't think so.
No, of course not.
Probably not. At least not free bathrooms.
I don't think so.
Why not?
It's expensive. It's expensive to keep them clean and, presentable.
Because no one wants to pay for them.
It just hasn't been prioritized.
Oh my God. Not too many people, I guess, focus on using public bathroom. Like me, they don't trust using public bathroom.
My suspicion is that they leave well enough alone, you know, unless people make a big enough fuss, nothing will get done.
Well, probably not enough space, not available space. And, you know, remember, there was that time where they had that innovative thing in Herald Square where it was like it opened and all, but that doesn't even exist anymore. That went, no pun intended, that went down the toilet.
So if you were out and you needed nature called, is there a place where you would go?
Restaurant.
What's the coffee place?
Starbucks?
Starbucks.
Well, there's Ferry right there on the second floor.
As a local, you just happen to know places you could go to, hotels, restaurants, things like that?
Do you have a specific place?
No, it depends on the neighborhood.
I know there is one on 42nd Street. There's a public bathroom. They always are lined there as well.
Well, Bloomingdale's, the outlet store has a bathroom.
The number of places is dwindling.
People don't let outsiders use their bathroom.
I'll end up going into a fast food restaurant, buy something from there, and use the public bathroom, and use their private bathroom.
I used to count on going to Trader Joe's. I'd say, okay, I'm going to get off the subway, I'll use the bathroom, I'll go, then I'll shop. And now they don't have it available. And I know it's because they're worried about homeless people.
So what should the city do to get more bathrooms?
Just construct it. That's it. It's a city. They can pick a spot like in the park, like this park we're sitting in right now.
It just has to become a priority. It's really important.
Just put some priority to it and some money to it. And look into the newer technologies.
Put more bathrooms in train stations.
I was in a public bathroom at a train station in Switzerland, and I was kind of squeamish about using it. This is a train station. It was spotless.
Wow. So we don't do it so well.
No. And I also think, people have to have civic responsibility. They have to love their city. They just do. Because with that comes care.